Hello and welcome to Planning Your Professional Development. I'm your host, Andy King with AmeriCorps Vista, coming to you today from Austin, Texas. Assisting me on this session are our partners, Scott Weinrobe and Andy Clark with Education Northwest. You'll see them in the chat and the Q&A to assist you during the session. This webinar shows you how to make the most of your Vista year of service so that while you are building the capacity in the community, you're also building your own capacity. The Vista program offers you a lot of resources to support your professional development, but the best way to make that happen is to start with a plan. In this session, we'll help you craft a professional development plan, and we'll point you to resources that you can use to help make it happen. Now, to get us started, we'd like to hear from you. Your first few weeks of service have contained a flood of information. Since you've begun getting settled into your organization, your community, and your Vista position, tell us, what is one goal that you hope to accomplish during your service? Use the chat panel on the right of the screen to share your response. And remember, if you don't see the chat panel, click on the speech bubble icon in the upper right corner of the screen. You may have joined Vista to become involved in an anti-poverty cause, or perhaps to learn about nonprofit management. Maybe you saw an opportunity to become a better public speaker, or to help a specific community that is meaningful to you. Maybe you identified challenges related to your work and your own professional development. So please use the chat panel to share your thoughts now. It looks like a lot of you have indeed found the chat panel and are sharing your ideas. I see several comments about grant writing and fundraising, people wanting to develop their skills in those areas. Some around general nonprofit management, communication skills, marketing, outreach. Others are just looking to get greater experience, whether it's for work or for graduate school. So you can see there are lots of different goals that you've set for yourself and that your colleagues have set for yourself during your Vista year. So great, thank you, and you can continue sharing in the chat. And I'm going to move on and talk about today's agenda. We're going to start this session with an introduction to 3 key tools that will guide your year of service and your professional development journey. We'll then share 4 steps that you can begin now to plan and reach your professional development goals. We'll close this session with a brief walkthrough of some important Vista Campus features, and then we'll open up the line for your questions. Throughout today's presentation, we'll have opportunities for you to share your thoughts and explore the Vista Campus, so let's dive right in. Remember that your year of Vista service is not just a year of community development, but it's also a year of personal and professional development. When you are at pre-service orientation, you learn some of the basics of understanding your VAD, creating an individual development plan at Vista Campus to help find resources. Now comes the fun part. Time to take your initial thoughts and turn them into action. First, let's revisit one of your most important tools. The responsibilities as a Vista are outlined in your Vista Assignment Description, or VAD. At PSO, you reviewed your VAD and began to think about what it will take for you to accomplish it. In the time since you attended PSO, you and your supervisor have likely come up with additional activities to support the achievement of your objectives and to capitalize on your unique strengths. So your VAD may be refined somewhat from the original version. At PSO, you also began to identify the knowledge and skills that you'll need to be successful in completing your VAD. You started outlining them in your individual development plan. If you have that plan handy, pick it out and take a look at it now. If you don't have the one that you started at PSO, you can download a copy from the Vista Campus. and you'll see the link is posted there in the chat panel. Thank you, Wendy. Think of your individual development plan as the bridge between your VAD and the accomplishment of your goals. You may know where you want to end up, but having an individual development plan allows you to plot your path with concrete action steps for building your skills. As mentioned, we know you've started working on your individual development plan at PSO, but you might not have had a chance to get everything filled in. So take a moment now and fill in the last box there in the right-hand column, learning opportunities and resources, if you haven't done so already. If you have anything to add, if you don't have anything to add just yet, that's okay, because this webinar will help you think through what tools and resources might be available that can help you build the skills that you identified. So we'll give you some time throughout to work on that individual development plan. So you may want to just keep that handy. So now let's talk about the Vista Campus. Now that you've identified some development goals, let's start looking at some opportunities for you to further your knowledge and skills. I'm sure the Vista Campus by now is very familiar to you. The campus is a great starting point for Vista-specific resources, and it's a connection point to the Vista community. In addition to providing you with resources to be successful in your Vista role, the campus allows you to connect with others who are working in the same programmatic areas, those who are living nearby or in similar locations, and those who are facing similar questions or have related knowledge goals. We've just identified the 3 tools for success: your VAD, your IDP, your Individual Development Plan learning goals, and your access to the Vista Campus. So now you're ready for professional development action. We've identified 4 steps for action that were developed after listening to other Vistas share their tips about what helped them be successful during their service year. You've only been a Vista member for a few weeks. You're becoming accustomed to new surroundings, a new workplace, and perhaps a new income level. So give yourself time to settle in and recognize that you will likely have questions. Remember, you don't need to know it all, but you should know where to go to find answers. Review the Vista Member Handbook to answer any policy-based questions that arise. You can also contact the Vista Member Support Unit with questions about your living allowance, benefits, or the Education Award. Also, you can contact your state office for support regarding emergencies, supervisor issues, or questions about Vista policy. And don't forget to speak with your supervisor or other team members about the community where you're serving, your Vista project, the site, and other questions that might come up locally. And some of you may even have a Vista leader, which would be another terrific support. So this first step is getting settled. So let's talk a little bit about getting settled into life as a Vista. Keep in mind that you have access to the entire Vista community: current Vista members, Vista alumni, state offices, Vista headquarters, your individual supervisor and leader. Many of your fellow Vistas are facing similar questions and challenges and could be a great resource for you. Check out the insight Vistas have left on the Vista forum, such as recipes, tips on reducing common household costs, and more. You can also ask a question of your own or offer your own advice to others who posted a question in one of the forums on the Vista campus. The Vista program also offers webinars on things like navigating your year of service, regularly covering topics such as living on the living allowance, using your Education Award, and understanding your health care benefits. You can find recordings of all these webinars available for on-demand viewing, and you can sign up to attend a live event on the Webinars for Vista page. By now, most of you have received at least one living allowance payment. If you're being paid directly by the VISTA program, you can access your living allowance statement in MyAmeriCorps. If you're being paid by your sponsor, then you'll receive your pay statement directly from them. Just as a reminder, the VISTA program does not withhold anything for state income tax, so you may want to set aside a little money each payday so that when tax time rolls around, you'll have the funds available to pay the tax due. Also by now, you should have received an email from IMG, the International Medical Group, instructing you to enroll in one of the AmeriCorps VISTA health benefits. Just a quick reminder, you've got 30 days to respond to that invitation and enroll in one of the two benefit options that are available to you. If you need to apply for new insurance through one of the healthcare marketplaces, you need to submit your application within the first 30 days of your service, and then you have 60 days to get that coverage in place and to submit everything to IMG. Okay, let's take a look now at student loan strategy. You'll recall that at PSO, we spent some time talking about strategies you can use to reduce the burden of making student loan payments during your year of service. If you haven't already, be sure to investigate these options to figure out which ones will work best for you. For more on the subject, there's a great website about the Education Award that also explains the various strategies for managing student loans while you're in service. We also have a couple of on-demand webinars on the VISTA campus that look in depth at the AmeriCorps Siegel Education Award and some of those strategies for managing student loans. And you can see ND has pasted links to all of those resources there in the chat window. Just as a reminder, if you selected the Education Award and you have federally qualified student loans, you have the option to put your loans into a status known as National Service Forbearance. And you do this using MyAmeriCorps. You look for the link that says Create Forbearance Request under My Education Award in the left menu of your account. Once you've submitted a forbearance request, you can come back to this section to check the status of that request. Once you click the Create Forbearance Request link, it'll take you to a screen that looks like this, the Forbearance Request Form. And this is where you select your current term of service and then click on the link to search for institutions. That is the lending institution that holds your loan. Once you've found your lending institution, you can submit your forbearance request. All right, let's shift now and take a look at getting settled in your organization. This is here to support you. It is important to feel comfortable in your organization where you'll be spending most of your time as a VISTA. If you haven't already, schedule regular check-in meetings with your supervisor. We found that having regular meetings with your supervisor is a key to success in reaching your VISTA goals. Having regular meetings allows you to align your work with organizational priorities, and you can soak up as much knowledge as possible, ensuring that your project is sustainable. Next, take some time to explore what's been done before. Dive into some documents that lay the foundation for your organization, things like the strategic plan, mission and vision statements, and other documents that the organization has put together to describe what it is that they're trying to accomplish. If there have been other VISTAs at your site before you, review their past accomplishments. This information could be found in past quarterly reports, which your supervisor can probably share with you. Finally, take some time to get to know your coworkers. Meet with people in various departments to learn about their roles and how you might be able to work together. One VISTA who is starting a waste reduction program at our college had lunch with the head of housekeeping. That individual turned out to be an incredibly useful ally to the VISTA, as the housekeeping staff was on the front line of waste management, and they were able to intervene directly to ensure that compostable waste was separated to create compost. Contacts like that are also likely to have personal connections in the community that could also help you advance your service goals. We have 2 webinars that might be really useful to you as you are getting started in your service. If you'd like to learn more about crafting good communication styles and developing a productive work environment, I encourage you to view the recorded webinar entitled Managing Up, Managing Expectations. This session covers topics related to working better with your supervisor, other staff members, stakeholders, volunteers, and community groups. These are great skills that you will likely need now and in the future, regardless of your career path. Another very popular webinar discusses good time management practices. Whether you're challenged by creating a realistic plan, you face constant distractions, or you find you haven't built in enough time for others to respond, time management can help. Learn proven techniques from an accomplished time management speaker while gaining practical strategies and tools to better manage your time. And again, both of those webinars can be found on the Vista campus, and you can view them on demand at any time. All right, the next step, step 2, is to turn your VAD into action. Once you've started making connections and identifying areas of growth, it's time to turn your VAD into action. Having a well-structured plan helps you jump into your work and plan accordingly. While you're working in the community, you may forget to record all the incredible work you're doing. So, how does one begin to create this plan? First, meet with your supervisor to again review your VAD and develop measurable goals. Again, having regularly scheduled check-ins will help ensure that your goals are being met and allows you to discuss any questions or roadblocks that may come up. Make sure to keep your VAD somewhere accessible. Refer back to it periodically to track your progress. Your supervisor may require you or recommend that you participate in additional training related to your VAD. Oftentimes, this is skills-based training to help you obtain the necessary resources to serve more effectively. Remember, the actions you set in motion should be seen far beyond your year of service. Strategize with your supervisor to determine ways that you can document your achievements and build on your organization's foundation to ensure that your work continues even once you've finished. We developed 2 webinars focused on project sustainability. One is for Vista members and another for Vista supervisors. We hope you'll take time to view the one for Vista members and maybe encourage your supervisors to do the same. You're going to want to have a plan for tracking your achievements now as you're just getting started. One tool that can help you do that is the Vista Impact app. The Vista Impact app is a tool that allows you to track your activities using a smartphone, computer, or other web-enabled device. Keeping a log of your activities and successes will not only help you when reports are due, but will also give you an incredible record of your achievements to reference after you finish your service term. The Vista Impact app is available on the Vista campus, and we'll show you how to access it during a brief campus walkthrough later on in the presentation. We also encourage you to view a recorded webinar that highlights how to use the Vista Impact app. You can find those details where else on the Vista campus, of course. And just so you know, we call it the Vista Impact app, but it's not a native app. There's nothing that you need to download to your device. It's actually a mobile website that is optimized for use on a wide range of devices. So you'll learn more about this Impact app in just a bit. Let's move on to step 3, and that is to take time to learn and grow. You've begun identifying action steps, and you've been making connections in your community, so it's time now to determine ways to improve your skills identified in your VAD. You may not have created an asset map or a communication plan for fundraising. That's okay. There are many resources that can help you get started. One of your most accessible resources, of course, is the campus. Use the work section that contains self-paced tutorials covering a variety of specific skills. And as you know, VISTA also regularly hosts webinars covering topics ranging from things like recruiting volunteers to holding effective meetings and building community networks. While the topics rotate from month to month, VISTA records and posts these sessions on the Webinars for VISTA page of the campus. VISTA also offers online courses called the VISTA Blend. These courses could be completed for college credit. They take about 10 weeks to complete. You'll receive email notification letting you know when those courses are coming up and when enrollment is open. Be sure to consult with your supervisor and plan your workload accordingly before you sign on to take one of these online courses. While the VISTA campus is always a good place to begin accomplishing your knowledge goals, remember that there are many other free and reputable resources available to help you get started. I will mention some examples that we think may be helpful, but I want to let you know that just because I'm mentioning them doesn't mean that they are endorsed by the VISTA program or the Corporation for National Community Service. These are offered just as examples to help illustrate the kinds of things that I'm talking about. So the first place I want to start is with libraries. Even with all the digital and high-tech resources available online, brick-and-mortar public libraries are still really valuable learning sites. Many local libraries have access to online databases and grant-writing resources. All you need is a library card. Librarians are usually well-versed in the latest digital trends and resources, and they're also great researchers. Plus, many libraries offer free access to audiobooks, ebooks, movies, music, and more. Not to mention, libraries often have community bulletin boards that you can use for posting notices. Say you're looking for volunteers or you have a community meeting and you want to get participants, a library can be a great place to do that. And while you're there, you might even find a recreational or social opportunity for yourself. You can also carefully turn to the internet for free resources. Sites like Coursera, Khan Academy, and Allison provide free online courses, some from Ivy League institutions, on a wide range of topics. More specific to the nonprofit world are sites like the Free Management Library and the Alliance for Nonprofit Management, which offer free and inexpensive articles, reports, and resources on a range of topics related to nonprofit work. Check your organization's professional affiliations and memberships to see if any of them could give you access to additional learning opportunities. Membership in the Foundation Center or LexisNexis, for example, provide access to tremendous resources for researching grant opportunities. Organizations like Volunteer Match and the Association of Fundraising Professionals, including local chapters, provide professional development opportunities both through webinars and in-person training. Check with your supervisor to see if he or she has any professional affiliations. Associations and membership organizations often offer training to their members. And if your supervisor is not planning to attend, you may be able to make the case for attending in their place. Finally, take advantage of the new networks your VISTA position will expose you to. A great place to start is with YPN, or Young Professionals Network, because they often offer networking, professional development, and volunteer opportunities. There's even a Young Nonprofit Professionals Network. Check out ynpn.org to find a local chapter. And if there isn't a local chapter, you could consider starting one. LinkedIn is, of course, another great resource for making connections. So spend some time scouring your current contacts because there could be somebody there that you're already connected to who can lead you to folks that you may want to reach out to in your VISTA service. And don't forget to take advantage of the networks you already have membership into, such as regional and local alumni groups. Some colleges and universities have mentorship programs or have a means of connecting you to other alumni where you can establish your own relationship. Or if you were part of a fraternity or sorority that has a branch in your area, that could be an opportunity as well. All of these groups often hold networking or social events where you can make more connections, build relationships, and expand your skills. Let's take a little bit deeper look at some associations and certifications as ways of building your own professional development. Professional organizations are a great resource available to help you meet your knowledge goals. In addition to connecting you with other individuals in your field, these organizations can offer significant professional development and networking opportunities. While not all of the events and resources mentioned here are free, it never hurts to see what's happening in your area and to ask the supervisor if you might be able to attend. Some of these organizations have entire sections of their website dedicated to professional development and career advancement. Those of you in the resource development field should certainly check out the Association for Fundraising Professionals website and explore their professional development section. It includes everything from conferences and leadership training to executive institutes, certification options, and more. Businesses who are working with volunteers are encouraged to look at the Council for Certification in Volunteer Administration. Review the certification requirements and see if it sounds like something you might want to pursue later in your career. Even if you won't complete the certificate program now, you can still glean great tips and resources from their website related to volunteer engagement and management. And don't forget about Points of Light and Energize Inc. Energize Inc. has tools related directly to career advancement within the volunteer management field. For those of you in communications and marketing, the Public Relations Society of America understands that nonprofits face unique challenges. Their website, which you can see there on the screen, offers seminars, newsletters, and other resources devoted to helping professionals develop public relations and management skills directly relevant to nonprofit and association work. If your VISTA service includes developing a training program or an education series, you may want to check out the Association for Talent Development. You'll be able to subscribe to newsletters, watch webinars, and follow and learn from leaders in the field of training and curriculum development. Additionally, if any of you are serving at a NeighborWorks organization, and even if you're not, be sure to explore the many training opportunities offered by NeighborWorks America. NeighborWorks offers training on everything from nonprofit leadership skills to professional development, community development, community assessment, and supporting minority populations, along with many, many others. Finally, don't overlook local development opportunities, such as those offered by a local volunteer center, a United Way, Chamber of Commerce, Toastmasters, Urban League, or any other national organization that may have local chapters in your community. Chamber organizations often host professional mixers as well as events directed towards emerging community professionals. While there may be a fee for some of the resources I mentioned, don't be afraid to ask your supervisor if you could pick one resource or training to pursue. There's also a chance that scholarships might be offered through the associations or the training institutes, so it never hurts to apply. All right, so I want to turn back to you and see what thoughts you have. Again, please use the chat panel to share any free course or resource that you found that you thought was especially helpful. Is there an affinity group or a professional organization that you think resonates especially well with your VISTA service? What was that one TED Talk you saw that you think everyone should watch? So if you have ideas about terrific resources for professional development, share those now in the chat panel, and we'll take a look to see what some of those resource ideas are. All right, well, Someone mentioned the library, of course, and so that's terrific. Looks like some of you are working in resource development, so perhaps the Association for Fundraising Professionals will be a great resource for you. Certification courses. All right, so I'll give you a minute to think about those types of trainings or online resources that you think might be helpful. And you can keep looking at those as they come in. And we will move on and look at the fourth step in our four-step process. Step 4 is getting connected. You're part of the VISTA family, and you may not have other VISTAs at your site, but you can always connect with VISTAs through the VISTA campus. Be sure to update your profile and fill out the project area and interests that you have there in your profile, and interact with other VISTAs on the forums by posting a question or responding to a question that others have asked. The VISTA map can be used to find other VISTAs who are serving in a particular area, or you can filter the resources by focus area, service start date, and role. You can look for members, VISTA alumni, or VISTA leaders. You can connect with the VISTA program through social media, such as Facebook and Twitter, Instagram. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to identify yourself as an AmeriCorps VISTA member on LinkedIn and connect to the VISTA groups that are available through LinkedIn. If there are other VISTA members in your area that you're aware of, arrange a meetup so you can get together face-to-face and share what you are all doing and learning. You can find VISTAs in your area along with alumni and leaders, again, by using the VISTA map, or if you're not finding as many as you think should be available through the map, you can contact your CMCS state office, and they can also help get the word out to other VISTAs who are serving in your area. You might also think about reaching out to alumni, as they often know the area well and are happy to help support current VISTA members. And if you're not already connected, you might look for an AmeriCorps alums chapter in your local area to connect with VISTA alumni. As a VISTA family member, don't be afraid to show your VISTA pride. You never know where you may make a connection with someone else who knows about the program. Make sure to identify yourself as a VISTA by putting the VISTA logo on your business card, in your email signature, and on your organization's website, social media platforms, brochures, and other communications. In the web links that we'll be sharing, you can find places to get VISTA publications and gear to use to decorate your office and represent VISTA out there in the field. You started developing your minute message when you were at PSO, that is a short speech about your organization and your role in the VISTA. Make sure to rehearse it often so that it comes easily to you and you can explain quickly what it is that you're doing. There are plenty of resources on the campus that can teach you about creating your minute message. And also, when you're out and about, don't forget to take pictures of what you're doing and share them through your social media outlets. You never know when VISTA may share or retweet your photo or service story. Another aspect of getting connected is getting connected to your community. So once you're clear on what it is you're setting out to accomplish, you're going to want to get to know your community. This may feel a bit daunting at first, leaving you unsure where to start. There's so many assets, people, places, and issues that are impacting your community, but you can start by doing some preliminary research. Oftentimes, other organizations have already done research on the community through things like needs assessments and research studies. You can search local newspapers for articles that might give you a pulse on what is happening in your immediate location. Research websites, blogs, or other social media channels that are producing reliable local content. In a community, face-to-face interaction is vital for establishing trust. So you're going to want to attend social functions such as community festivals, networking events, neighborhood meetings, open houses, or fundraisers. Just being seen in the community and being supportive of other events makes people want to be more invested in your work. Begin scheduling site meetings and site visits with community leaders that you've met at some of these events. Cast a wide net at first and take the time in the beginning of your service when you're getting your feet wet to discover new learning partners and new connections. And you can also ask your supervisor if they could connect you with someone willing to serve as your community champion or ambassador. An ambassador is someone who can help you connect with the community. This person should be an established community member, willing to give you some background on the region so you can approach your VISTA service in a more meaningful way. You'll learn much more attending events or talking to someone who knows the community, but if you don't have a community champion, don't let that stop you from exploring and learning about the area you'll touch during your VISTA service. To recap, here are these 4 steps for action to help you maximize your effectiveness. First, make sure to get settled into your life as a VISTA member. Get to know the program, your site, and the community. Then, turn your VAD into action by developing your learning goals and holding yourself accountable for reaching them. Take time to learn about the resources available to you, both in the VISTA campus and outside of it. And finally, get connected with other VISTA's alumni and others who may want to know more about the program. You've heard about 3 features on the VISTA campus that will help you stay connected and informed. The VISTA Campus Benefits Hub, your learning plan, and learning connections. Now I'm going to turn the things over to Scott Weinrow from Education Northwest. Scott is going to switch us over to the VISTA campus now and show you how to access some of these features, as well as others that I've mentioned during this presentation. So Scott, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Andy. And hello, everyone. It's nice to be with you today, and I'm happy to have the chance to talk with you a little bit more about the VISTA campus. So as Andy mentioned, the campus is designed as a resource for you all, and we hope that you'll find it easy to navigate. To get around the site, just hold your mouse over the drop-down menus to see the different topics. I think you'll especially want to check out the resources under Life as a VISTA and the work. For example, under the Life as a VISTA section of the site, you'll have seen this before your PSO, but we have a benefits hub, and this page provides information on all of your benefits as a VISTA member, including your living allowance, health care, education award, and so on, and where to go if you have questions. So on this page, you'll find an overview of each of the benefits, and then if you click on the Resources tab, you'll find links to resources that would give you more in-depth information on each of the benefits. Andy had mentioned the VISTA Impact app, and that's also found through the Life as a VISTA section. You just click on the link here to the Impact app. As Andy mentioned, the Impact app isn't actually a native app for a particular phone operating system. It's a mobile-friendly website instead, and it'll work on any phone, tablet, or computer web browser. So when you go to the Impact app, you click this link from the campus, it'll take you right to there. You'll be asked to log in again because it's a separate site, but it shares the same username and password with your campus login, so you won't need to create a new account. You'll just need to log in to the app with your campus username and password. Another feature of the site that will really help with your kind of professional development efforts is the learning plan. So you can find that linked from the home page or from the drop-down menu under your name when you're logged into the site. So you'll have already seen this as part of the pre-work you did before your PSO. The main required learning item is the Starting Vista page, which contains the Terms and Conditions course, the Benefits Hub, Civil Rights and Responsibilities, and so on. There's also suggested learning, so a number of resources were automatically suggested to you when you created an account on the campus that we believe are useful for all VISTA members. But in addition, people that you connect with can suggest training that they think you'll find useful, and vice versa when you can suggest training to your learning connections. And I'll show more about how you make a learning connection in just a moment. And then finally, there's the favorite content column, and that includes any resources that you've bookmarked. So if you find a resource that you found particularly useful, you can just add it to your favorite content, and you can easily find it the next time you're looking for that information. So for example, let's say that I'm looking for something about how to really kind of make the most of my VISTA service on my resume as I'm looking for a job. So I can search for resume. I may want to filter it down a little bit more because I had heard that there's a good webinar on the topic. So I find here, this one sounds interesting, Translating VISTA Service to Your Resume and Career. Once I find it, if I find it useful, I can just go down here and click this link to add it to my learning plan. The next time I go back to my learning plan, it'll be bookmarked as a favorite. So I mentioned a moment ago that your learning connections can suggest training to you, and you can suggest training to your connections as well. You can access your learning connections and find new learning connections to the Learning Connections tab in your user profile under My Account, and then Learning Connections, or you can jump directly to it from the Learning Connections link under Connect and Learn when you're logged into the site. So you can use the search box in the site to look for a particular person. You can also filter down the results by focus areas of interest. So here I'm going to look for my supervisor because I want to make a connection with her. So I type her name in, and there she is. I can either click that plus arrow, that plus icon right from the search results, or I can go directly to her page and click the plus icon there. That will send her a connection request, and once she approves, we'll be connected, and then we can suggest training to each other or use the private messaging feature of the campus to message through the campus site. Let me just mention briefly before I hand it back over to Andy, one other resource, and it's another way to connect. So let's say that you're looking to make connections by location with other VISTAs in your area. You just go under Connect and Learn to the VISTA map, and this is an interactive map that contains pins for everybody who indicated that they want to share, to be shown on the map when they created their profile. So I found someone here in Nevada I might be interested in connecting with. I just click on their pin, and oops, there we go. It pops up a little pop-up box. I can either connect directly from there, or to learn a little bit more about the person, I click and I can go to their profile, see any text they've entered that kind of describes their project or their background, and then I can, as before, click the plus icon to make a connection request. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand things back over to Andy.
Great. Thank you, Scott, so much for that tour of the VISTA campus. Now it's time to hear again from our participants. We've covered a lot of information today. Taking into account the 4 steps for action, what is one next step that you think you can take today after this webinar ends? You may want to bookmark the VISTA Member Handbook in your learning plan, or schedule coffee with a coworker, or search for the next date for a community association meeting. So what are your ideas? What steps do you think you'll be taking as a result of this webinar? And again, use the chat panel on the right side of the screen to share your responses with your coworkers. All right, so I see some folks are talking about using the VISTA campus more, going back to see what resources they may have overlooked or haven't yet seen. Heard some or saw some comments earlier about using the recorded webinars, or what we call on-demand webinars, is a great way to go back and quickly learn about a topic. Even if you weren't here for the original session, you can look at those on-demand webinars. Using the map to find others in your area to do some outreach and networking connection with fellow VISTAs is a great way to use the campus. And some of you want to reconnect with those you attended PSO with, which is great. Keep that PSO feeling alive and keep those connections going. And I see several mentions as well of the VISTA Impact app. So it's a great tool for helping you track your activities and accomplishments. Great, so keep your ideas coming there, and you can keep skimming those to see maybe some of what your colleagues are going to do might give you an idea for some things that you could do as well. So again, if you haven't done it, you might want to schedule a regular meeting with your supervisor, set up meetings with other organizations in the community, or do some research on professional development opportunities. Okay, so let's take a look at some immediate next steps that you can take. First, sort of where we started out this session, take some time to complete your individual development plan. Use this webinar and the VISTA Campus to enhance and identify some of your learning goals. If you don't have regular meetings scheduled with your supervisor, reach out and set one up. And then identify one resource, whether it's an on-demand webinar, a self-paced tutorial, a video, something on the VISTA Campus, and add it to your learning plan so that you can review it in the future when you go back to the campus. Also, I would suggest that you reach out to another user on the VISTA Campus through the Learning Connections feature that Scott just showed us. And finally, another suggested step is to research a professional organization in your current field or in a field that interests you and investigate a typical career path in that area while looking for things like online trainings, resources, webinars, or other professional development opportunities. I've given you a lot to think about, and I'm sure you probably have some questions. But before we start the Q&A session, I want to invite your feedback on this presentation. You'll notice an evaluation poll will open on the right side of your screen. I invite you to take a moment to share your thoughts about today's session by answering the questions in the poll. I think there's just 10 short questions. You'll need to use the scroll bar on the right to scroll down. You can work through those questions pretty quickly as we're continuing with the presentation. So now it's time for your questions. As some of you have noted already, you can ask a question online using the Q&A panel, which is now just above that polling panel on the right side of your screen. And if you're on the phone line, I'm going to invite our operator, Catherine, to come back and give us instructions for how to ask a question by phone. Catherine?
Yes, sir. If you have dialed in and would like to ask a question through the phone lines, please press *1. You will be prompted to record your name, and your name is required to introduce your question. If you would like to withdraw from the queue, you may press *2, but again, it is *1 to ask a question. And we do have one question in queue from the line of Devin Wozniak. The line is now open.
Hi, Devin.
Hello. I was wondering, you mentioned earlier that we should have gotten an email about healthcare and signing up for that, but I haven't received anything. What should I do?
Okay, so if you haven't, first thing I would suggest is maybe check the spam folder or the junk folder in your email to make sure it didn't get filtered out. Typically, those emails are sent within about 7 to 10 days of your becoming active as a VISTA member, so 7 to 10 days after your PSO. So by now, I think all of you should have received that message. If you don't find it in your spam filter, then what I would suggest you do is on the Vista Campus in the benefits area, go to the section on healthcare and you'll see a link to the website for IMG, International Medical Group. They have a special website for the VISTA program, and all of their contact details are listed there. So you can send an email to them and say, hey, I was expecting to hear from you about signing up for a plan. I didn't get a message. Or you can call. They have a toll-free number as well. So we want to make sure, and I'm glad that you noted that you didn't get an email. We want to make sure that nobody misses out on the opportunity to sign up for one of these benefits. So definitely IMG is your resource there.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
At this time, we have no further questions on the phone, but if you would like to ask a question, please press star 1.
All right, great. Well, we've got a number of questions that have come in through the Q&A panel, so I'll just dive right into those. Kayla asked, for direct deposit, what is it titled? And I'm not sure, I don't remember exactly when this question came in, so I'm not exactly sure what it's referring to, but if you're wondering about direct deposit, where to find it in your account in MyAmeriCorps, so what you would do is log in to my.americorps.gov. Once you've logged in the left menu, you'll see a link, My Living Allowance. And under there, you can expand that menu on the left, My Living Allowance, and you'll find the section there for direct deposit. So, for instance, maybe you didn't have your bank account set up when you were starting VISTA, but you do now. You can go in at any time and update your direct deposit details. Susan has a question. Where can I get a poster that says Getting Things Done, like the Rosie Riveter that showed up in a picture? So you can order a poster like that. There's also one that says AmeriCorps Vista Serving Here that we encourage every Vista project site to have posted in a window or somewhere on a wall inside the organization. You can find a link to that on the Vista campus in the resources section. You can also go to the nationalservice.gov website, and in the section on media, you'll see a link to things like posters and materials, and there's an online ordering system there. All right, next up, Monica says, is there a training workshop on how to apply for government jobs that Vistas could access? In fact, there are a couple. We've done one specifically on non-competitive eligibility, and that is a status that Vista members receive at the end of their service year. And it's good for up to 1 year and allows you to compete for federal jobs as if you were already an employee of the federal government, so it gives you sort of an inside track to compete for a position. We have a couple of other webinars, one on using USA Jobs, which is the website for finding federal employment, and another is how to build your resume to compete for federal opportunities. So several, and all of those webinars, of course, are on the Vista campus in the webinars for this page. Let's see, looking ahead here at some other questions. So Kelsey says, what days do we get paid on? Well, you get paid on Fridays, and you get paid every 2 weeks. So there's a calendar of pay dates on the Vista campus. I don't think let me see if I have that available to me quickly here. Right, so let's see, this coming Friday, December 4th, is a Vista pay date, and then the next pay date after that will be December 18th. So it's every 2 weeks on a Friday is when you get paid. Kristen asked a question. This was about state taxes. How much money should we set aside to pay our taxes? Well, I wish I had a single answer that I could give all of you, but the best advice I can give is for you to go to the website for the state where you are residing now, where you're serving, and look for their taxation department webpage. And on there should be a tax table. And the tax table will show, it depends if you are a family of one, if you're single or if you're married, filing singly or filing jointly. Of course, there are different tax rates for people based on those different sorts of criteria. So find the one that matches your situation and look to see what the minimal amount of money that you need to make in order to owe taxes. Many vistas don't owe any state taxes because their living allowance is less than that minimum amount, but it varies state by state. And some states, of course, don't have any state income tax, so you'll want to check that out for the state where you're serving. All right, let's see. Allison asks, is there official system set up for tracking our hours through VISTA, the hours that we serve at our organization, or is this set up with our site? And the answer to that is that tracking your hours is done locally at your VISTA project site. Because the hours of operation at each location can vary slightly, but they also are responsible for tracking your sick days and vacation days. So any leave that you use will also get tracked locally. So be in contact with your supervisor about your hours served and about any leave that you take. Let's see, Cynthia asks, how do we find doctors who accept the AmeriCorps Health Plan? So if you're on the AmeriCorps Health Plan, you will have information available through the IMG website where you can find a directory of providers that participate in that plan. And if you have more specific questions, I'll refer those to IMG so that we don't get too far into the weeds in this seminar here. Deborah asked, how long will it be before I get my reimbursement from PSO? And so that's in terms of your travel reimbursement from PSO, those generally take 6 to 8 weeks to process, although right now our turnaround time has been a little bit quicker than that. So count from the end of your pre-service orientation and count out about 6 weeks, and you should get paid by then. I'm just scrolling through here to see some of the other questions. It looks like some of these we touched on. Someone asked, do we still get paid on a Friday even if it's a holiday? Oftentimes, if Friday is a holiday, that payment will post the day before. But in general, the payday is on a Friday. Let's see, and other specific, if you have some other specific questions about IMG, who should you talk to? You should talk to IMG about that and give them the details of your situation and what your question is. They can research it. If there's information they need to verify with us at the VISTA program, they'll do that. And then they can get back to you. Their customer service is really very good. So don't hesitate to give them a call. All right, let's see. Rebecca asks, I signed up for health insurance prior to PSO, but I don't need it now. I don't have it until I went through the application process with the insurance then, right? Okay. So if so here's briefly how our two health benefits work. If you under the Affordable Care Act, everyone's required to have insurance unless you're exempt under certain provisions of the law, and generally those provisions include if your income is very low. So some vistas, based on their circumstances, will not be required by law to have insurance. If you're exempt, as that is called, then we provide a basic safety net plan, the AmeriCorps Vista Health Plan, that you can enroll in through IMG. However, if you are required by the Affordable Care Act to have insurance and you have insurance, then you can get an additional allowance from us up to $6,600 to cover out-of-pocket expenses like deductibles, co-pays, and other costs related to accessing health care using your insurance. Both of those plans are managed by IMG, and so the email I referenced earlier, in order to get one of those benefits, you need to enroll in them. They're not automatic, so you won't get anything unless you sign up for it. And so you do that on the IMG website, and you'll need to submit either proof of your insurance, if you have insurance, or proof that you're exempt from the requirement to have insurance if you're exempt. So all the instructions and details are there on the IMG website. If you run into any trouble, you can also get support by contacting them online or through email or by phone. All right, Rebecca asked a question, does VISTA pay off interest from student loans? And the answer is yes, in some cases. And we're not going to get into the details here, but I'll point you to the EdAward website and the recorded webinar, the on-demand webinar on using the educational law. Those two resources will provide you with lots of detail around getting the interest on your loan paid. Morgan asked a question, is there a particular number of hours that we must serve by the end of our term, sort of the way AmeriCorps national members do? No, so the VISTA program is different. That's one of the ways it's different from AmeriCorps State and National, is that VISTA members serve a full year, 365 days, and there's not a specific number of hours. But while you're serving, the number of hours you serve each week will be based on the typical work week, the number of hours at your service site. Okay. Catherine, I'm going to turn back to you to see if we have any callers on the phone who have questions.
We do not have any callers in queue at this time.
Okay, great. Well, we've got a few more questions here, so we'll continue with the online questions. Joey says, I had to pay for a hotel after PSO when I got to my service site. Does VISTA pay for that? No, we don't specifically pay for hotels. Now, if you were relocating and you were approved under the terms of our relocation policy, then you would be receiving a relocation allowance, and that money is to be used in any way that you want to defray the cost of your moving expenses. So it could be to cover a hotel night or a rental truck or however you want to use it. And that relocation allowance is paid out as a reimbursement payment, again, in that 6 to 8 week period after PSO ends. Marianne has a question about the 6,600 health care allowance benefit. She says, does that roll over from 2015 to 2016, or does it restart January 1st? So it will restart on January 1st, and the amount is actually, for 2016, is a little bit higher. I don't remember the exact figure, but it's a little bit more than $6,600, which is what it was in 2015. So in 2016, yes, that amount will reset. Again, scrolling back to see what questions I may have missed, if any. And Scott or Andy, if you're aware of questions that I'm not seeing, please let me know.
Sure, Andy. Let's see. So Emily asked, and I apologize if you already covered this, does getting paid on the first of the year affect our direct deposit?
Yeah, so that question I think we've answered a couple ways. So if a pay date falls on a holiday, then oftentimes the deposit is actually made the day before. But I don't want you to count on that because different banks sometimes handle direct deposit differently. And so we make every effort to submit the payment early when we know a holiday is coming up so that you're not affected. So in general, yes, you get paid the day before, but it's not something that we can guarantee because some of it's out of our control.
Great, thank you, Andy. Let's see, another question. This is from Fungai. I know that while serving as a VISTA, student loan interest is paid, but they ask, is this independent of the Ed Award, or is the Ed Award used to pay the interest on student loans?
Good question. So if you select the Ed Award as your end of service benefit, and you put your federally qualified loans into National Service Forbearance with us, at the end of your year, assuming you finish 365 days, you will receive the full amount of the education award, plus you can also request that we pay off the interest that accumulated on your loan. So that interest payment is in addition to the education award. The education award is not used to pay off the interest. That's separate. So you'd have that whole education award to either pay down your loan balance or to use for future educational costs.
Great, thank you so much, Andy. Let's see, a couple more questions here. Michelle notes that when she tries to set up her IMG account, she's getting a message that she's not yet active, and asks if, would that mean that she's not yet active in the AmeriCorps VISTA program, or is that something to contact IMG about?
Yeah, most likely that is related to IMG. So there is a two-step process. You first create an account, and it sounds like Michelle went to the IMG website to create what they call a My IMG VISTA account. And to do that, in most cases, you need to have an account number that is generated by IMG, and that is typically sent in that invitation email that they send. Now, if you got an email with that account number, it has a link that you can click through. As you're getting that message, I would just call IMG because it seems like something is not working as expected there. And they'll be able to clear it up very quickly, I'm sure. But we don't want you to get hung up on that and to somehow forget or to miss enrolling in a benefit. All right, I see some more questions have come in. Benita says, I attend meetings before, during, and after work. Normal business hours are 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So I'm guessing she's asking about, back to that question of tracking hours. So as you can see, the hours are different for different projects and different sites. And one of the sort of principles of this service is we say it's 24/7. Not that we expect that you're working all day, every day, but that we want just the members to be available to serve when things need to happen. So oftentimes you'll be involved in community meetings, and those are happening in the evenings or on weekends. And so if your service depends on you being there, of course, you need to do that. But then talk with your supervisor to adjust your hours on other days so that it balances out to a regular work week. So say your regular work week is 40 hours and you work, say, 4 extra hours one evening. Maybe you take 4 hours off another day, or you leave 4 hours early some afternoon, so that it balances out and that you've got a manageable number of hours week after week. Let's see, Latoya says, if two people are in the same area, why would our living allowance be different? So living allowance rates are based by county, and they're based by where your service site is. So you could be just across the county line. You could be in a metropolitan area, and someone's, their project site is in the part of the city, and someone else is across the river or across the state line or the county line, and so the living allowance amounts would be different because of those two different locations. Carolyn has a question about becoming a VISTA again, which is great. She says, if we want to reapply for another year, are we supposed to do PSO again? And the answer is generally no. If you sign on for another year of VISTA within 4 years, we generally do not have you come back to PSO because not that much has changed. But if it's been more than that, then we probably would have you attend. All right, looking ahead at some other questions coming. Let's see, so Sydney says, is this session being recorded? And yes, absolutely, it is recorded, and you'll be able to access it on the VISTA campus. It takes about a week for us to get the video processed, the caption added, and then to get it uploaded onto the website. Matilda asks, how many years can you serve as a VISTA? So in general, the total maximum number of years you can serve as a VISTA member is 5. But usually after your 3rd year as a VISTA, there's like some special permission that has to happen internally to get approval for that 4th and 5th year. So we love it when VISTA members come back because they've got tremendous experience. But then we try to balance that with the interest in making this opportunities available to more people. So that's why we try to balance that out. Sienna, again, has a question about hours and tracking that. She says, if I work an extra 8 hours over the course of a few days, and then I take a day off to balance that out, will that be logged as a vacation day? And the answer is no, but you're going to need to work that out with your supervisor at your project site and get approval. You can't just not show up someday and say, oh, yeah, this is to make up for those hours. Obviously, you need to let your supervisor know in advance, get it approved, and find out what that process looks like in your site. Because different projects, there might be a form. In some other sites, they might just have a verbal system. Maybe there's a website or an online system for doing it. So find out how the procedures work in your project site and then follow those procedures. But no, if you work 8 extra hours and you're taking a day off, that's just like a comp time system, so that would not be a vacation day. And on a similar topic, Sarah says, do we still get paid for holidays, vacation time, and sick time? Yes. So you probably recall that you get certain number of sick days, vacation days, and paid holidays. The holidays will reflect the holidays of your project site. However, if you work at a location that closes down, say for a week at the end of the year, we expect you as a VISTA to still serve during that time. You don't get an extra week off more than any other VISTA. If your office is closed, then we would ask that you work with your supervisor to identify whether you could do your service from home, doing research online or, making calls and communication with partners. You could be doing site visits. You could go out into the community and do research. You could be perhaps volunteering at some partner organizations to understand their services and operations. So there's lots of things that you could be doing outside of the office during that long stretch between, say in late December. So another related question, what if my office is closed for a state holiday that's not a federal holiday? Am I still required to log hours? Yeah, so again, I would talk to your supervisor about that and see if there's a way that you could, you know, maybe use that day for doing some other kind of service outside of the office, or you could build up some other hours through community meetings or evening work, and then just have that day off like everybody else does. These are great questions, a lot of them related to your benefits and pay. Curious if there are any questions related to professional development or the campus. Going back through, and Catherine, while I'm looking here, do we have anybody else on the phone lines with questions?
We do not have any questions in queue from the phones. If you would like to ask via the phone, please press *1 and we'll open your line.
All right. I'm not seeing any additional questions. Scott or Andy, have you noted any that I may have missed?
Andy, let's see. There was one I noted here. Deborah asked, does a summer VISTA position count as a year of service?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I totally missed that one. So, no. So a year of service is a full year of regular VISTA service. A summer associate term, which is 8 to 10 weeks, does not count. It doesn't count in any way towards the total maximum of 5 years of VISTA service. So thank you, Scott, for pointing that out. And Deborah, thanks for that question.
No problem, Andy. And one additional one, Laurel asked, would she be allowed to do teleservice before she's been a VISTA for 3 months? Teleservice policy.
Yep. So typically, no. But if it's a situation where your office is going to close for the holidays at the end of the year and teleservice is the natural way for you to continue serving, then yes, you can be granted permission for teleservice for that purpose. But generally speaking, and if any of you are interested in this topic, I point you to the VISTA member handbook. There is a policy on teleservice where you can serve remotely a few hours each week. But of course, there's certain conditions around that. So, and you have to be serving at least 3 months before that begins in most cases. So, good question. And if it relates to the holidays, then yes, an exception can be granted for that. All right, well, not seeing any other questions. Let's do our wrap-up then. I want to thank you all for participating today. It's been great to have so many of you with us and to see such active participation in the chat with all of your ideas and responses and your great questions. I also want to let you know about our next webinar that's coming up in just a couple of weeks. It's called Writing Winning Proposals, Advice from an Experienced Grant Reviewer. That's happening on December 16th, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. You'll be receiving an email with instructions for registering for that. So if any of you have grant writing or fundraising as part of your assignment description, you'll want to join us for that session coming up on December 16th. So I want to thank you all for your participation, and I want to thank Scott and Andy for their expert support during this presentation, and I want to invite you all to come back and join us again for another VISTA webinar. We hope to see you again soon. Thank you.